Hello and welcome back, all 100 of you. My name is Pilot Merchant, and out of all of the interesting things that exist in our technological world that we live in, I think that the most frightening one to exist is probably robots, considering they, threaten our entire existence.
Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
But for now, let's ignore the fact that Siri listens to everything that we say and just think back to a simpler time where robots, instead of reminding us of, the Terminator, reminded us of a 2005 Fox blockbuster movie by the name of Robots. Where do I even start with this movie? Ever since I was a kid, this film has been one of my all-time favorites to rewatch over and over again, and I mean, even as an adult, rewatching this film showed me that I have all kinds of classic lines and moments forever tattooed in my brain that allow me to quote this movie line by line sometimes. And the cast list for the film is absolutely brilliant. You've got Amanda Bynes, Jennifer Coolidge, Mel Brooks, Greg Kinnear, Robin Williams, and even Obi-Wan Kenobi himself.
Hello there.
I have to say though, it absolutely disappoints me to see this movie with such low ratings. 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb, 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, 78% on Google. Well, at least they've got 4.7 out of 5 on Big Cartoon Database. Whatever that is. But I digress for now. The movie follows Rodney Copperbottom as he travels to Big World City in an effort to follow his dreams of being an inventor and making the world a better place for all robots. But it's while he's on his quest for greatness when he discovers that things in Robot City have changed quite a bit from when he was a child dreaming of the big city. Inventors and frankly all robots in general have become old and outdated. This then causes Rodney's focus to shift from being successful and famous to leading a city of outmodes in a battle against their tyrannical so-called leaders. And if this sounds like an interesting watch to you, then go ahead and oil your antennas. Then go ahead and make sure that your head is screwed on right. Mine's fine now, because it's time to get into 2005's Robots. We open up on a quick overview of a city street as funky metallic-like music plays in the background. Our soft robotic jingle is soon interrupted though by a very excited Mr. Copperbottom, who then runs through the street letting every passing pedestrian know that his baby has just been delivered. But keeping in mind that this is a world full of robots, a baby being delivered means something slightly different than to be expected. That's okay though, because according to Mrs. Copperbottom,
but it's okay. Making the baby's the fun part.
I did not need that mental image. We're then treated to a montage of the whole baby making experience, and then we're treated to another montage that displays little Rodney Copperbottom's first few years, months, weeks of life. I'm not entirely sure how the whole age thing works with robots, but after some mysterious amount of time later, Rodney and his dad go to some parade, and Rodney gets introduced to his lifetime role model, Mr. Big Weld. The whole thing with Big Weld is that he's just a genuinely caring kind of dude who just wants to make life better for all robots of all economical standpoints. One night while Rodney and his dad are watching Big Weld's show, Rodney gets inspired to make an invention that will help his father make his dishwashing job a bit easier. It's not until after graduating high school though that Rodney actually gets the opportunity to test his invention. At first the trial goes swimmingly and the little robot makes quite the glamorous show, but when Mr. Copperbottom's boss busts into the kitchen, it immediately puts the little guy in a state of such intense anxiety that he begins to accidentally knock over everything in the kitchen. Despite this fallback though, Rodney, still feeling rather confident in his work, decides to head over to the train station to get a ticket to Big World City. He soon gets interrupted though by his parents coming to the station in an effort to stop him. After some convincing however, Mr. Copperbottom decides to buy the ticket for his son and tells him to not give up on his dreams. And after a heartwarming goodbye to his family, Rodney boards a train, and the next thing you know, he's at the heart of the Big Weld train station. Thing is though, Rodney's not quite used to the whole hustle and bustle of a big city. In his first few minutes in the city, he gets ignored when asking directions, harassed by this fella who will be back later, scammed, nearly scammed again, and confused by a breakdancing robot, all before he can even reach the customer service counter to figure out where the hell he needs to go to leave the station. Finally making it to where he's supposed to be though, Rodney prepares to see the big city with his own eyes for the first time. You see, the catch is that the fastest mode of transportation through the city, however, is via a giant amusement park-esque roller coaster that quite literally launches people through the air and down a series of different dangerous AF rails and tubes, all while traveling at probably close to 200 miles per hour. Now, it's probably a good thing that Action Park had already been shut down before this movie came out. Eventually though, the traumatizing ride of a lifetime does in fact end, and Rodney is able to make his way up to the Big World building, but of course only after watching his new friend get hammered. Still not going to talk about him yet. He'll be back soon, don't worry. Anyways, when Rodney walks up to the gate of the Big World building, he meets Tim, who's essentially the gate master. Rodney talks to him for a bit and tries to make his way inside, but after Tim pranks him, Tim then explains to us that apparently things in Big World City have changed a lot quite recently. The biggest change of all, however, being an actual change in management. And seeing how Big World is no longer in charge of Big World City, that leaves one to only naturally wonder, who the hell is? Introducing our main antagonist of the movie, Ratchet, whose entire personality can be summed up by this one clip.
Where's Big World?
Essentially, he's the direct opposite of Big World and is only interested in making new shiny cosmetics for the rich. So after we get to see an Apple advertisement combined with the best catchphrase I think I've heard,
Why be you when you can be new?
Rodney decides that him and Wonderbot are going to try to pay the boardroom a visit, which that pretty much goes exactly as you can expect and ends up getting Rodney tossed out by security via a large electromagnet. We then get treated to a scene where Rodney starts being chased by everything around him because lol, electromagnet, and the chase ends with him being knocked out and dumped in an alley. Before we get a chance to check on Rodney post-concussion, we take a quick detour to Madame Gasket's scrap shop. And not that you asked, but the only reason that she's really relevant is because apparently Madame Gasket is Ratchet's mom, and Ratchet, being evil, naturally, his mom is also evil. But his dad's not, though. He's just kinda hanging around.
Hey, son. Good to see you.
On our field trip to the villain's secret lair, we find out that the main reason that Ratchet is so hell-bent on focusing on upgrading rich robots is because when the poor ones start to break down, they start to turn into scrap metal, which is then collected by Madame Gasket's street sweepers, which is then melted down for profit. Essentially, they're killing people for money. The conversation is short-lived though, and after a quick goodbye to his parents, we leave Ratchet behind to go visit Rodney, who is currently being looted by our red robot friend Fender. Seeing how Rodney is in fact not dead, he wakes up to see Fender stealing his foot and tries to confront him, which in turn starts a short chase that ends with Fender's freaking head falling off. Let's just take a moment to appreciate that this movie is about robots and not humans. Be a lot more morbid if it was, though. Rodney, feeling bad for knocking off Fender's head, offers to help him, which eventually leads us into meeting Fender's group of friends. Anyways, though, Fender and his group of outmodes head over to a robot repair shop in an attempt to fix Fender, but they're soon told that all of the spare parts for old robots have been ridden of. Luckily enough, though, Rodney comes into the same shop looking for some parts for Wonderbot and offers to fix Fender's head, which, considering the whole spare part shortage, Fender has no choice but to accept. And in return for fixing Fender's broken neck, the group invites Rodney to stay at their place. Well, it's not exactly their place. You see, the house belongs to Aunt Fanny, who's named that because haha butt joke. And unlike a lot of modern robots that live in Big World City, she still subscribes to Big World's old saying.
See a need, fill a need.
And so she goes out of her way to help homeless robots by offering them a place to live. After meeting Aunt Fanny, Fender and Rodney go off to their room and have a brief heart-to-heart conversation. More like a fart-to-fart conversation. The next day, Rodney and Co are at the breakfast table when they hear an angry mob run by. Naturally, being curious, they go outside to see that everyone is surrounding the spare part shop because they need fixing, but the shop has already been bought out by the Gasket family. Seeing a need, Rodney decides to fill the need by helping as many robots with their problems as he can in one day, which leads to a montage of robots getting fixed. In turn, though, this for quite obvious reasons pisses off the Gaskets enough to want to scrap whoever is fixing the outmodes, but luckily enough for Rodney, it doesn't seem like they know exactly who's doing it. Later that day, Rodney and his friends are putting about when they start talking about them needing to find Big World so he can return to power and start creating parts for everyone again. And the way they're planning to go about it is actually quite simple, really. You see, Big World Industries has an annual ball for their management level employees and biggest contributors to attend, and supposedly Big World himself always makes an appearance. So with their idea in tow, they show up to the ball disguised as a count and some dude that likes to slap short people. Shortly after, Shortly after, the two split up and start to mingle with the guests in an effort to fit in, and while Fender tries to get lucky with the Fimbot, Rodney makes his way to the stage to see Big World. But rather than Big World coming out to deliver a speech, he's substituted by none other than Ratchet Gasket, which is quite a fun name to say if I'm being honest. Rodney, not being able to control his composure, starts to accuse Ratchet of getting rid of Big World and in the process accidentally ousts himself by claiming that he's the one who's been fixing outmodes. Before being escorted out and scrapped by security, this lady named Cappy steps in to save Rodney because unlike her fear-ridden co-workers, she genuinely wants to find Big World and help shape a better tomorrow. So after leaving the party and having a short debate about whether or not Rodney cares about his life being in danger, Cappy opts into taking Rodney to Big World's house in an effort to investigate his disappearance. Oh, and also, while that's happening, Fender walks his fling home and gets carelessly picked up by one of Madame Gasket's street sweepers, but that'll have to wait. Upon arrival, Cappy and Rodney try ringing the doorbell a few times, but when that doesn't work, they find that the door has actually been left unlocked. They decide to go inside to continue their investigation, but while Rodney is busy playing with all of Big World's toys, he knocks over an innocent enough looking domino that then leads to a cataclysmic amount of dominoes falling down and creating a literal ocean of number tiles. While Cappy and Rodney are struggling to stay alive, Big World then appears out of nowhere, surfing on a giant domino. 'Cause why not? When all the commotion finally settles down, Rodney tries pleading for Big World to come out of retirement so he can go back to making the future better. It turns out though that Big World is just burnt out at this point and genuinely has no interest in trying so hard, so after Rodney gives up on preaching his piece, Cappy and him leave. Checking back in with Finder, yeah, he's doing fine, don't worry about him. Anyways, Rodney and Cappy are over at the train station getting him a ticket home when Aunt Fanny and co come by to say goodbye. The reunion is short-lived, however, because they see Fender, who's now wearing a dress, trying to buy a ticket out of the city because he's now traumatized by the chop shop. Seeing Fender and hearing his story then re-inspires Rodney enough to ignore the fact that Big World gave up and gives him the oil that he needed to continue his fight against the extermination of outmodes. Surprising absolutely everyone though, Big World comes out of nowhere and states that he's going to be joining in the fight because he's tired of being pushed around as well. So now with everyone on board, the crew heads over to the Big World Corp to confront Ratchet. This, like Rodney's unexpected entrance to the building earlier, goes about as well as expected.
Oh my gosh, I'm as crazy as my mother.
This, as expected, leads to yet another chase sequence, but this time ending with Big World rolling directly into the chop shop. Also, I'm going to stop using the word expected now. Knowing that they have to do something to fix this, Rodney encourages the group to get battle ready, and once they are, they enter the shop to save Big World from the meltdown of doom. However, they soon realize that they're severely outnumbered and outgunned, but at the nick of time, Piper shows up with all the other outmodes from the city who are tired of being pushed around and are ready to fight for the livelihood of all robots. Operation Save Big World then turns into a huge fight scene that ends with Madame Gasket being rightfully off and Ratchet being stripped of all of his valuables and hung for display like a certain Italian man from history. The movie then wraps up with Rodney getting a job at Big World Corp, and as you could have likely guessed, considering this movie was from the 2000s, the film ends in yet another dance sequence. At this point, I've stopped being surprised when 2000s movies ends in a freaking dance sequence. It seems like all of them do at this point. So if you haven't seen my videos before, whenever I'm done retelling the story of the movie, I do like to give it a rewatchability rating, just based off of my own personal opinion on whether or not I'd rewatch this movie. So on my rewatchability rating for Robots, I would give this movie a 4.5 out of 5, essentially meaning that I would probably go out of my way to turn this movie on, but I'm not entirely sure if I'd watch the whole thing. I only say that at this point simply because I've seen this movie so many times that I'm not kidding, I could literally quote lines from the movie right here. Like, there's so many lines that are delivered in the film that are absolutely amazing and absolutely hilarious, and the movie itself is really, really freaking funny to me. But I think that it's been a little bit more soiled over the years where I'm starting to get bored of it. And don't get me wrong, I really, really enjoy watching cartoon movies and things like that. I have no shame in that at all. I don't care that I'm a 22-year-old man. You know, I'm gonna keep watching my cartoons. I don't care. But yeah, I'm not a very technical person whenever it comes to movies and all that. I don't try to be. I mean, I did originally. I don't now. I don't I don't know enough about making movies. I'm just telling you the story in my own funny little perspective. You know, I am not a movie reviewer. I am a commentator. Do not confuse me. But yes, this movie gets a 4.5 out of 5 from me. I would likely turn this movie on in the future, but I would not be paying attention the entire time. That is for damn sure. Anyways though, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, then leave a like on the video. If you have any movies you want me to watch, you want me to commentate over, movies, TV shows, anything like that you think I'd be interested in, please leave it down in the comments and I promise I will get back to you eventually. And last but not least, if you want to see more content from me, I try to upload monthly. I took a month off last month. I had too much personal stuff going on. Got a lot of personal stuff going on this month too, but I just couldn't, you know, justify doing 2 months off of YouTube. So, you know, I'll be back around next month. That is a promise. Unless something catastrophic happens, I will be back next month. So if you want to see next month's video, which will be Surf's Up, then, you know, subscribe, come back around, do whatever you do, you know? Look, man, I only have 111 subscribers. I'm not a professional. I don't know what you expect from me here. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to stay safe and that you are important, and I hope you have a lovely day. But jokes aren't funny. I'm sorry, they're not funny. If you find them funny, then good for you, but they're not funny. You're wrong.